What jersey is that? Is that Raiders or is that
Oh yeah, Devonta Adams,
okay. I didn't know you were an
who
NFL
I
fan.
don't think is going to be Raiders much longer.
Oh no, what happened?
Well, he's not happy, but I mean, I don't know about contracts and money, but he's not happy.
Okay.
They don't
Yeah, I
have,
like
they don't even have a quarterback. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen on some. It's just
you
ridiculous.
don't like Minshew? I'm a Coug fan, so I loved Minshew. I mean, I know he's not like Patrick Mahomes, but
We'll see. I thought Garoppolo would have been great, and he's off, and he's gone, and it's a mess. It's a mess. But that's what you get for supporting the Raiders.
yeah, I mean they used to be good in the 80s. They were
That's
really
what
fun.
that's when I started following them when I was shooting heroin in a basement in London, and the only thing that was on TV at 3 o'clock in the morning was NFL from the States.
Oh, I didn't know they played it over there and then they
No,
played
no,
it
no.
live.
No. There was one TV station that broadcast all night. It's called Channel 4,
Okay.
and they would just broadcast whatever they could get hold of. And
Huh.
some of that was NFL because of the time difference. There would be NFL playing, and it would be 3 o'clock in the morning in England, and they would be showing it live. And so I just watched and became a Raiders fan.
So wait, which drug were you taking at this time?
All of them.
Oh, well, because when you take heroin, what do you do when you take heroin? Don't you just like lay in a bed and just like fall asleep basically? Or is there like, can you like,
Is this the interview, or are we just chit
yeah,
chatting?
yeah, this is it. This is fascinating stuff, right? Is it
Okay.
not?
Okay. Well, what a professional does when he takes heroin is put some cocaine in it so that you can stay awake and enjoy the heroin.
Right. Like a speedball. That's what John Belushi loved, right? And Chris
That's
Farley.
also what John Belushi died from, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
lots
that's,
of people die from speedballs, but there you go.
but you did them and you never, did you ever even have an OD or anything?
Yeah, many times.
Many times. And you just were able to, because like I was just watching Breaking Bad. I don't know if you've ever seen that show. Maybe
All
it
of
hits.
it. Fucking great show, but it's crystal
Yeah.
meth. It's different.
Well, no, but they do heroin. Him and Jesse and his girlfriend do heroin, and she's like, make sure you sleep on your side because if you lay on your back, you can throw up and choke on your own vomit. Is that pretty accurate? Is that like a thing that junkies do?
It's a thing that junkies do and die from, yeah.
Wow,
Mm.
it's crazy. So that show's pretty accurate then.
That show was very accurate. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was never fully in the crystal meth world. I mean, I've done crystal meth, but it's just glorified. All of it is glorified speed. So, I mean, I know the effects of it. I get it. I wasn't cooking up meth in a trailer in the desert. I was doing different kinds of shit stuff.
Right. So you went from that and living under a bridge and homeless and I think you said robbing people. You went from all that crazy shit to like now having I don't is it number was did it hit number one, the song Crack Cocaine, or is it number two?
No, it hit number one.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, so you got the number one song. So how do you do that?
I
If
have no, I have no idea. I mean, I'm as surprised as you are, man. Well, no, the truthful answer is I would say you make a record that is just for you, just for you. Like, honestly, that album, the Morrison Project, came out a few months ago. I mean, we're just touching the surface. We've only just started releasing things that aren't crack cocaine because crack cocaine just took off and exploded. That whole album was primarily so that I could drive around in my car listening to an album that I'd made that I really love. Every track, no filler, every single track. And I think if you make a record that is that honest, and also when you don't know you're making a record, it helps you be that honest because I was just making music in COVID. If someone had said, I'm going to sign you to a record deal and you are going to write 12 songs, I would have been like, oh shit, I need consistency. I need singles. You think differently when you're making an album. I didn't know I was making an album. And I think that's a good starting point for going for success is just make an album that you like.
right. But I think to get to number one, I feel like one thing that you did that I think is super smart that I've tried to explain to people because I've had people on the show that release a solo album or a project and they don't have guest stars. And I tell them, why don't you have some guests on this album? It would get more exposure. And it's a great song, it's a great album, but not as many people hear it.
Well,
Whereas I think I don't know if it's an ego thing with these people. They just say, no, I don't want, I want to like stand on my own. And you said that like the music is bigger than the artist. Like, I don't like
yeah,
having these guests.
yeah. And I've been, I'm trying not to use the word ego because obviously I have an ego. I'm in a business that requires that you have one. But I think the music, let's put it this way, the music was bigger than my desire to sing everything. I proved that I can sing. Well, kind of. I can do Angry Boy, quite well. Disenfranchised Youth, except not youthful. I can do that shit. But there were some moments where I realized the music was of much more importance than whether I sang it or not. And that's really it. I did not set it. It's quite frustrating because I really didn't set out to put a bunch of famous people on a record. It's not what I did. I wrote a bunch of music. I sang the ones that I felt spoke to me, that the lyrics came easily, that melody came easily. And then I hit upon stuff that clearly would be better if one of my friends sang it. Just like a movie, it's a hip hop song. As much as I love hip hop and as much as I've done a few collaborations with hip hop guys, one that's going to be coming out in October that you don't know about yet, but I'm excited. I'm not a rapper. I'll dabble with it, and if I'm working with a big hip hop act, I'll try and, hey, give me 8 lines. But clearly that song was meant to be rapped on and not fucked up by me. And the fact of the matter is, being in the business all this time, I do have some people in my Rolodex that I call friends. I didn't go through managers. I called up D. Actually, I texted D. And all I said was, listen, dude, I don't really know what I'm doing because at that point there wasn't a record. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I've got this great hip hop song. Would you rap on it? And he went, send it to me. That happened with all of the songs.
Yeah, I love it. I listened. I was trying to find out. I just wanted to know the story with Ozzy. Like, how did you become friends with him? And so I finally figured it out. Can you tell my audience? Because I love this story. You met him at a Christmas party, and the story is just—it's so real. Like, it really exposes. It's not like this like glamorous rock star story. It's like this. These are two real people that
Yeah.
that got a connection.
There was nothing glamorous about it. I was at one of Sharon and Ozzy's houses at a Christmas party, which, Sharon throws amazing parties. So we're talking 500 people, none of which I knew. I was invited by a mutual friend of Jack's. And I find myself in the Osbourne's kitchen with all these big shots and record company people and rock stars and actors. And I am so overwhelmed with social anxiety because I don't do well in rooms like that I opened this side door. It's on the Osbournes. The room is on that TV show, The Osbournes. It's a door off the kitchen of that old house, and the lights were off and it was really dim, and I shut the door to get away from this, what I perceived as huge pressure to be on and smile and happy. And I'm just not that guy a lot of the time. And Ozzy was in there doing exactly the same thing in his own house, hiding from the party, socially anxious. And he said, hello, I'm Ozzy. And that was it. We sat down, we were in there a couple of hours talking about Cadbury's chocolate from England. The old country and the Sex Pistols and anything else that Monty Python. I remember we spoke about Monty Python. We just bonded because we're both English,
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's just a coincidence that you happened to open the door and he happened to be in there by himself. Like you'd think.
And well, knowing him now, that's not a coincidence. Now I know him very well. He's going to be the one hiding somewhere in a party. He's not particularly into the big schmooze thing either.
So is it Sharon that wants to have the big parties then, or?
I don't think it's a case of wanting to have big parties. at some point when you live in this town at that level, you're expected to have parties, you know, a release party or a Christmas party, or like people do from time to time. And it was just the Osbournes was massive on MTV or just kicking off. And, you know, they were faces about town. And the expectation was Sharon Osbourne throws a great Christmas party, which, by the way, she does. There were real reindeer wandering around Beverly Hills and real snow in 80-degree heat. So, you know, she does throw a good party, does Sharon.
Wow. And it sounds like there was a lot of famous people there. Do you get starstruck still when you see all these celebrities?
Depends who it is. I don't think there's a music person I would be starstruck with. No. I- I've I've met and worked with most, and the ones that I haven't met or worked with, I would not be starstruck. I'd just be full of respect. You know, like Ice Cube. I've been saying it in every interview. I'm a huge hip hop fan. Never met Ice Cube. I think he's one of the greatest voices in hip hop and a great businessman and funny in the movies. So if I met him, I would love to meet Ice Cube, but not from a starstruck point of view. I'd probably want to say, let's do something.
Yeah.
Let's collaborate. Let's do something. Like I'm full of ideas, dude, and my career shows that, you know.
No, absolutely. Especially with this album. It's
I think
amazing.
there's some artists that I would be starstruck with if I met them, you know.
Yeah, because you do art on the side. Well, I guess not on the side. That's like your main thing. That's your main. So, what artists are you a big fan of?
Most of them are dead.
Sure.
Unfortunately, in the art world, the blue chip art world, death seems to make you rise to the top, you know.
Right.
I mean, I'm a Damien Hirst fan, more about the business than the actual art, but I'm fascinated by Damien. Obviously, Banksy. My house is full of Banksy. Um,
Do you like?
having answered your question, I'm thinking most of the artists that I respect, I've also met and worked with, like Shepherd Fairy and Risk and Plastic Jesus. They're all my friends now, so maybe I just live a charmed life. And
Do you
I
like
know
Salvador Dali? I think he's one of my favorites.
I do like Dali. I think it's a little bit overrated in some respects. The famous pieces, fantastic, fantastic. I wouldn't have Dali in my house just because the aesthetic of my house is different. I mean, you can see that's a Basquiat, that's a
Mhm.
Warhol. I'm more contemporary modern art, but Dali's amazing. I mean, you can't deny the talent and the craziness.
Yeah. What do you think makes good art in terms of music or paintings or whatever? Like, how do people? Because sometimes it's drugs, right? Isn't that like sometimes the thing that opens the creative door?
I'll say this about that statement about drugs. Ozzy didn't have a real number one album until he got clean. So, you know,
Same with
and
Aerosmith, right? Isn't it like, I mean, some people prefer the more fucked up years, but commercially they didn't become big until they got sober.
correct. And, you know, I would say that the days of people thinking it's cool to throw TV sets out the window, it's really gone. I mean, for starters, we all wised up and realized that we have to pay for those TVs. You know, so it really is. It's not 1987 now, and we've had the heroin years, and the ones that lived through it. Think about the ones that didn't live through it. You know, I think it's just for
Yeah,
me.
isn't that crazy to think of the ones that didn't? What if they did get like what if Cobain and Layden Staley and those 90s guys, what if they still were making music and they got sober? Like it'd be interesting to hear what they would do sober.
I think they would have the trajectory of anyone else that had drug problems and cleaned up, myself included. I think that if you push through that, you find that creativity knows no bounds. And I think to answer your original question, what makes art worth doing is having something worth saying in the first place. I mean, even the Sex Pistols, you know, if you break Never Mind the Bollocks down to, I've very well documented that it's my favorite band and my favorite album. But I would say to you that those songs are not the most complicated songs ever written. It's not Tom Sawyer by Rush, but what makes that album stand on its own 2 feet 50 years later is what they were saying, how important it was at that time for that band to exist for the 21 months that they existed. They changed the face of music because what they said was important. I think that what Warhol was saying was very important about consumerism, mass consumerism. I think what Banksy says about us as a race and our greed is very important. I think it's about what you have to say, not how you've been educated to say it.
Yeah. So with that said, what with your new album, because like obviously the big single "Crack Cocaine" is not about crack cocaine. It's a metaphor about a girl that you think about all the time.
Thank you for understanding that. Drove me and Ozzy mad when radio stations are like, well, you can't play this. This is about drugs. Well, first of all, you ended up playing it anyway, radio stations, and you got us to number one. So thank you for that. And secondly, you know, Chuck, thank you for understanding that.
Yeah. So I mean, but these songs they all have a deeper meaning, at least to you, and
Yeah.
hopefully that comes across to the audience.
Yes, I also agree that art is subjective, both visual and music. A lot of art. I don't want to explain one of my paintings. I will if I'm asked, because I'd be rude if I didn't. But it's much better. All the art in my house, I've not asked the artist once what it's about. I think it's more important that it speaks to me in a certain way. So the songs on my album, of course, they mean a lot to me. There's a lot of quite personal stuff. We Are the Dead is hugely personal to me. Drowning and It's Come to This. I mean, It's Come to This is pretty straightforward. It was just a statement on how I think everyone on the planet was feeling, having been locked up for 18 months with a bunch of lies coming through the TV. And I'm not being political. I'm actually being apolitical. The lies that we were getting fed were so well documented. You know, you need to have a vaccine. Oh, not this vaccine. No, this one. Actually, we made a mistake. The vaccine isn't working. Oh, yes, it is, but you need 2 of them, but you've got to wear a mask. No, sorry, not a mask. I mean, come on. That's what we were. And that was the world I was living in when I wrote the Morrison Project.
Right. That was a weird time.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like they're going to make a Netflix documentary about it at some point,
God.
right? I mean, there's been nothing so far. There's been no like analysis of that time. Like we've kind of
that also tells you something.
under the rug.
That also tells you something. Pandemic? What pandemic? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It was traumatic to me. And so like for me, it actually, I was able to sit at home and do podcasts via Zoom like this. And it was like, I didn't suffer. I mean, obviously some people got very sick. Some people died. Some people have family members that got sick and they lost their job. Some people lost their business. I mean, it really affected some people horribly.
Yeah, I mean, all our road. I'm in a fortunate position that, first of all, clearly people still buy art when there's a global pandemic. I didn't know that, but people do still buy paintings.
Maybe more time to shop, I guess.
Well, there was a lot of that going on. People online going, "Oh, how much is that? Okay, great, ship it to me." You know, but on a wider scale than that, I'm fortunate enough to be able to go through something like that and not be affected really. Even on an emotional level, I'm pretty much an isolationist. So I kind of loved sitting indoors, ordering food, Postmates, and just not dealing with the human race, you know. But our crew, our Billy Idol's road crew, they exist from gig to gig, from tour to tour. It went away for nearly 2 years. Those poor guys suffered, you know. So yeah, I think that it was a very interesting time to live through. I don't regret anything in my life, so I don't regret that we all had to live through it. I think it was an exercise in humanity, patience, acceptance. You know, that if you want to learn about acceptance, live through a global pandemic. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you've obviously with the sobriety that's taught you a lot of those life skills that you've had to deal with things without drugs and alcohol. You've just had to learn how to like, I think you mentioned gratitude is something that you try to practice every day. And so those kinds of life skills, you kind of are prepared for something like this, right?
Yeah, I think it helped. I don't think that just because I got so, I mean, I've been sober 29 years, and it doesn't mean that I'm an angel. I am an absolute idiot a lot of the time, and I still have a lot to learn. What it does is it does teach you acceptance. It does teach you that you're not in control a lot of the time. I love when people think they're in control. Really, if you're in control, stop the pandemic. Make that stop. You are absolutely not in control. And so therefore you learn some acceptance. It doesn't mean that I don't still have a lot to work on as a human being.
Yeah. Well, so for the people that went through the pandemic or just like, or just going in a slump in general, like, because I'm sure that you're throughout your career, you've had ups and downs. Like, how do you get past those downs, like those slumps? Like, how do you not get discouraged at times and just think of giving up?
That's a great question. I mean, everyone goes through that. Whether yeah, have a look at some of the interviews with people like Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie just gave a fantastic interview. I forget with whom,
Hmm.
about parts of her career. Pamela Anderson just gave another great interview about the ups and downs. Everyone goes through them. I think that self-destruction, for someone like me, self-destruction is a natural go-to that I have learnt doesn't get me anywhere. So that's the difference. A lot of my friends are not here anymore because going through one of those slumps killed them, through self-destruction, through self-medication and numbing the pain of the trauma they're going through, and it didn't work. They messed it up. They died. So I go through those kinds of ups and downs just like anyone else. I just have learned not to self-medicate through them, which makes it painful sometimes.
So you don't self medicate. So do you just kind of realize, like, I'm in a slump right now, things are bad, but they're going to get better? Or do you start
Well,
like working harder or what?
I believe in the power of communication. So I think that for me, I have certain people in my life that I can talk to on a deeper level and discuss the ups and downs. Let's take a down. I'm going through a down. There will be people that I go and talk it through with. And um, I also am a workaholic. I will double down and wake up every morning and go, what can I do to push through this? How can I find the strength to push through this? And finally, and I think it should be the first thing, it's primary. This is such a sobriety thing to say, but it's very true. When things feel like that, helping another person gets you out of your head and stops you obsessing about. See, I believe that the universe has a plan for me. I think it has a plan for everyone. I don't think there's a neon sign on the 405 that is saying, Billy, you need to do this, you need to buy this, and you need, like, that doesn't work like that. But if we are in tune, there are some signs that I'm on the right path. One of them for me is I'm not dead,
Well,
because
yeah, that's a good
left
sign.
for me, left to my own devices, I should have been dead 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So that's left to my own devices. I end up in an alleyway in downtown Los Angeles in a really bad way. So if you believe that, then you believe that there is a greater plan afoot. And if you can trust that plan, why not just go help some other people until such times as that plan, because it's not in my time. This plan will happen in its own time. And I have loads of examples of that in my life where I chose to just not worry about it and get on with helping other people. And that and 10 other things all fell into place, and life was even better than I thought it was going to be.
Wow. So what's an example of you helping somebody else? Because obviously I mean, you could help so many people with music. I mean, there's probably a million people that would love to have your input or help on a music thing, right? Or is it's something totally non-music?
Oh, it's all kinds of things. I mean, Chuck, I do Above Ground with Dave Navarro. That's a charity, a big charity that helps people that suffer from trauma, PTSD, depression, suicide awareness. And I'm active in that charity. And that is music events or donating my paintings or my time. But then there's yeah, I mean, I will sit, you'll see me in a coffee shop sitting talking to someone that was close to blowing their brains out. And I'm sitting there talking to them and trying to share my story with them and tell them that I was the same and I'd come very close to doing that exact same thing. And they then ask that question, well, how did you get from that to this? Boom, the light bulb's gone on. Now I can help them. So there's all kinds of ways you can help another person.
Yeah, no, that's really good to hear. It's really inspiring. I love to hear those kinds of things. Because I always think the same thing. I'm always like, okay, what is my purpose? Why are we here? Like, and it's usually to help people in some way, whether it be through doing an interview
Right.
like this that might inspire somebody, or making music or making art that's better for the world.
No, that's why I do these things. I'm not doing these things so I can Google my own name and then watch the interviews that I know I've already done, because there's hundreds of them.
Yeah.
I don't do them to boost my Google reputation in my own head. I do them because the amount of people that have come up to me and gone, "Oh my God, I saw you on the so and so podcast. You blew my mind. My son is going through that." Or my husband committed suicide. Like the amount of our Dave and I with Above Ground, our motto is it's okay to ask for help. That's our slogan. It's okay to ask for help. The more people in a whatever position I have that actively talk with no boundaries about, yeah, I shot heroin for 14 years and I nearly died. Ask me whatever you want. I'm not shy of that, because I may save a life that I don't even know. Some guy in Australia might be watching this podcast and go, "I love that album. I had no idea this guy was down like that." If he can do it, I don't know. That's my hope.
No, I love that. That's great. Because it is an issue that Americans and people all over the world are suffering with, and especially here in America with the fentanyl stuff. It just
Oh my
that stuff
God.
drives me nuts. I just wish there was and I think because I think people are lost, they choose that path, and like I would rather have people not even go down that path at all, especially with the fentanyl. I mean, I just don't see that like the point of doing that drug. But I know that when people are just down a dark path and it's just like one step next, and then somehow they're smoking
It's
spent.
a hard one, and something that we're not going to fix in a half-hour podcast. But I've been in DC talking to high up members of the FBI about how on the front lines they are and what kind of solutions are needed. I've read white papers that are being put together about the opioid crisis, and it isn't something where there's a simple solution, but there's definitely no solution if we all stop talking about it.
Right. Yeah. Is there any books or movies or anything that helped inspire you to get sober, or that helped you inspire you to stay sober?
No, I think what inspired me to get sober is the fact that I was actually going to die and no one would have given a shit. So I didn't need much inspiration. I was homeless, unloved, unlovable, and it was very bad. So the books and the movies, I mean,
Or
you know,
song or whatever? I mean, like with music, it's
no, I think that it all becomes very real world, and there are resources out there. You know, Google is your friend. There are many resources available now. We still need more, but there are resources for whatever you're going through. Um, the main step is not to be scared to ask for that help. The stigma surrounding I need help needs to go. And then we will save more lives because the resources are there these days.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's something that people don't understand. They think, oh, we need more resource. I'm like, I think we got the resources. It's just people wanting to use it.
We've got to guide the people to want to ask for that. Because you can't help someone that doesn't want helping. But there are many people who would want to be helped if they thought for one moment it was okay to go, can I maybe get out of this life? That's what you need.
Yeah. And then you could do amazing things like what you're doing, touring with Billy Idol and put out
100%.
songs with Ozzy and Corey Taylor and all this amazing stuff.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, you got to get going. I think it's been at 30 minutes.
I'm good.
Okay. You want to keep talking then?
Yeah. Chuck, whatever you want.
Well, yeah, because we didn't even...
I'm an interviewer's dream. I'll let you know when I'm done.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, just yeah, because I mean, there's so many other songs on the record that we can talk about. I mean, you got the
Through 'em.
What's that?
Talk through them.
Yeah, well, Drowning was your favorite, right? And
Yeah.
that's a cool video too. You had the cockroaches on you. You had to rent these cockroaches. Like
Yeah.
that's my worst nightmare. Do you have any
I
fears
didn't-
like that?
So the concept of the video was pretty much, most of the video concepts come from me sitting around with my girlfriend just shooting the shit, and she'll go, what if? And I'll go, that's a great idea, and then we make it happen. And that concept was interesting. First of all, I had to convince the producers that it was okay to strap 20 pounds of weight to my legs and I was going to fall into a swimming pool and drown,
And you almost did, right?
I did almost drown. Yeah. I had a scuba diver at the bottom of the pool with a spare tank, and the reg,
There was water in it or something, or what happened?
let's just say that I didn't drown and all is
Yeah.
well. But
Okay.
yeah, I would say health and safety would have had a nightmare with me if they'd have been there. And then of course I said, I want massive cockroaches running all over my face. And they, to their credit, found out you can rent cockroaches. I did not know this.
That sounds like I was in the bathroom the day at my pool, and I'm going to the bathroom. I look over, there's a giant cockroach, and I like screamed and ran out of there.
It's
Like
a
I'm
side
total
hustle
wimp
for
that.
you, Chuck.
What?
Catch that little sucker. You've now got a side hustle, renting cockroaches.
Ugh, what is it about? And it's an irrational fear. I realize because the cockroach is not going to hurt me, but they just gross me out.
They're very dirty things, and I'm pretty sure the ones that I don't know, pretty sure. I have no idea what they could have caught them the morning of the video shoot downtown. I don't know where they came from. I'm just an idiot, but I let them listen. The video looks great, does it not?
Yeah, it's awesome. Great song. Who does the bass line in that? Is that you playing bass? Because I love the bass line. It's the beginning, it's really.
Yeah. It started live. Geordie from Manson's band wrote a bass line, and it was in that key and that tempo. But when I revisited this song, because it was just like sketches of songs, I completely rewrote. I kept the tempo and I kept the vibe, but I rewrote the bass line and played it myself. And it's a storming bass line. I love it.
Yeah, I love the. There's definitely a feel and a sound to the whole album, but then there's like a variety too. Like it's nothing against AC/DC. I always use them as an example, like how a lot of their songs sound very similar. Like that's not the case here. I mean, there's like the Al Jorgensen is more industrial, and then the Linda Perry is more. Would you say that's kind of like a ballad almost? Like
yeah, that's a ballad. I mean, again, this goes back to what we started on, which is had I known I was making a record, it would not have come out like this, because who puts a hip hop song, a metal song, a punk song, and a piano ballad on an album together? It's just not done. But I had the luxury of, well, I don't care. What do I care? No one's gonna hear these. When I started doing it, no one's gonna hear these. By the time I realized people were gonna hear these, it was a bit too late. These are the 12 songs I've got. I stand by them. It's all over the place, but yeah, it's not. There's a great arc. And I cannot take credit for that. I lucked out. I really lucked out with the sequencing, with the Barry Pointer, who mixed the record, killed it. That gives it a sense of consistency there. And at the end of the day, Chuck, it is what it is. It's what I wrote. It's what I put out, and I'm super proud of it. Really
Yeah.
proud.
And you wrote 90% of the music and you play guitar on it. So there's that's consistent throughout as well.
Yes, I think that's a good point. I think that even though, Corey Taylor is singing Incite the Watch, it's over music that I wrote, and all the rhythm guitars, they're all me. 7 or 8 of the solos are me. Most of the bass is me. So I don't know. That is what a solo album is. It's my vision and it's my songwriting. And then I chose people to sprinkle their fairy dust on the top, which they did, and they all killed it. I can't thank them all enough.
Yeah. Well, the Corey Taylor, I don't know that story. How did you meet him? Because I mean, I get the Billy Idol. Some of these like make sense. Obviously, Billy Idol because in his band. But Corey Taylor, I wouldn't think Billy Idol toured with Slipknot.
I actually don't remember when I first met Corey. I know that if you go on YouTube, I was the reverend in his first marriage. I don't really have much clear memories of it, but it's on YouTube there. I'm invested in the Universal, whatever that church is that you can buy for $20 online. And so I'm a minister in that church. And so I mean, that's going back decades. I married him in Vegas in some ceremony, and then we played. And he's been performing with my band, Royal Machines, for years, as a guest. And we just hit it off. He's a great guy, one of the greatest singers. I mean, listen to the vocal on Incite the Watch. And we've actually, I don't know when this goes out, Chuck. When does this go out?
Maybe today, maybe Friday, within the next few days.
Currently, you see me posting these weird pictures on Instagram and all my social media of this mannequin. I'm going to give you an exclusive, Chuck. Why not? So on the 9th of September, 0909, we're going to release a video for Incite the Watch, and it will officially go to radio as the new active rock single, the follow-up to Crack Cocaine. And you will see when you see the video that it's an animated video, very much in the style of Scooby-Doo. And the villains are those mannequin characters that we drove around LA and positioned this mannequin in all kinds of weird and wonderful places, took a photograph as the build-up to this thing. And that comes out next week. And Incite the Watch is, to me, with Steve Vai doing the solo, it's one of the greatest songs on the album. And apparently my label agree, because here we come again with another huge active rock single, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's an all-star lineup with him and Steve Vai. That's and I heard you said that they sent their work and you didn't really have to change anything. And I've heard the same thing from like Dave Fortman, producer, with Evanescence and Slipknot. He said Corey Taylor, it's like he does it in one take, and it's amazing.
Crazy.
And you're like, he's a producer, and he's like, I can't. There's nothing to change on that. Just do it as it is. It's the easiest job in the world.
It's absolute. And that song that I sent Corey, if you take the vocals off it, it's not easy. You can't tell where the verses are, where the choruses are. It's a complex musical song, and I just sent him the music. And what you hear on the record is what he sent me back. It's absolutely, and the same with Steve Vai. But I'm a guitar player. What am I going to say to Steve Vai? No, it doesn't go like that. What Steve sent me was absolutely perfect, and we laid it all in the track and went like that, and there's the track.
Yeah, I've always been a Steve Vai fan ever since that movie. I'm sure you've seen Crossroads.
Yeah.
That is like one of the coolest movie scenes I've like ever, where he just he's like the devil and he's playing against Ralph Macchio. Oh, it's
I
so cool.
just sent him, he's given me a few guitars over the years, and I just texted him a video a couple of weeks ago. There's one song, we just finished touring Canada, and there's one song that I use one of his guitars in. So at the end of that song, it's a crazy flurry of madness, and I recreated the Crossroads scene where he picks the guitar up and he's doing this with the whammy bar.
Yeah.
And I had my tech video that, and I sent it to Steve, who cracked up laughing, absolutely cracked up laughing.
Oh, that is so cool. Yeah, you live like an amazing life, like just hanging out with all these guys, touring and doing, and then you got that other, the All-Star, the Royal Machines thing. Like you're having like a fun life. You're getting to paint art and make money off of it. I mean, that's like really amazing.
Yeah, well, this part of my life, yes. Don't forget, I spent 15 years near to death, and all kinds of pain that goes along with that. So this part of my life, yeah, and I would attribute that to hard work.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, I am living a good part of my life. Let's see what happens in the next 15 years.
Isn't it interesting though? Because people always think like getting older is like sad and it's depressing. I feel like I'm 46 and I feel like I'm happier now than I was in my 20s. In my 20s, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing with life. It was like stressful, it was terrible. Now I feel like, oh, okay, like I kind of get this thing called life. I'm way happier.
Yes and no. In so many areas, you're absolutely right. In a couple of areas, I wish I'd learned some lessons sooner. You know, I mean, definitely financial. I'm lucky I'm okay now, but it took a lot of hard work considering I cleaned up when I was 29 and I was not financially stable, you know, where most of my peers were. Most of my peers had a gold record or two by the time they were 29, when gold records meant something, you know?
Right. Didn't you get a big contract though when you were young?
Yeah, I mean, it was still not young. It was when I cleaned up is when I got that contract. And also, it didn't help that that record label, Geffen, went under while I was signed to it. So that obviously wasn't the time. The universe, that wasn't the plan. Now is the time the universe decided.
But you could have at that point, the band, you know, Geffen goes under. You could have said, you know what, I gave it my all. And you could have stopped and given up on music, and you never would have had this #1 record and all this other stuff.
I could have done that, yeah.
Crazy.
But I didn't. And, you know, there's other areas of life where I wish I'd have learned lessons sooner. Relationships. There's all kinds of areas where I'm still a work in progress. But on the whole, I am definitely enjoying my 50s.
Yeah, that's great to hear. No, I agree. I mean, definitely there's things you wish you knew all the stuff that when you're old. I mean, it's like the song, you know, you wish I knew what I knew now when I was younger, whatever. Fuck that up probably. But yeah, I mean, exactly. It's the same thing that, you know, if you knew this stuff when you were 25, life would have been a lot easier.
Yeah. But then life would have been probably different. I think some of for whatever integrity I do have, that comes from having lived that life and gotten out of it without dying. So I think that integrity and that work ethic wouldn't have been there if I'd have known all the shit I knew when I was 16, you know?
Right. You kind of had to learn the hard way, I guess.
Yeah, for me, I did. I mean, that's definitely, I couldn't have written the Morrison Project had I not lived that life.
Right. Yeah, that comes from, and I'm sure some of the paintings come from some of the dark times as well, right?
Correct. You just can't do that with any truth. You can do it, but again, I would like to think the album's success and the success of my art is because there's a hell of a lot of truth in the pain I sing about, or the anger that I sing about, or the paintings that come pouring out of me. You've got to have lived a life in order to have that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the album is out now. It sounds like the new video is coming out next week with Corey Taylor. Can't wait for that. Your art is available. I'll put the link in the show notes to both
Thank
your
you.
art projects and the music and all that stuff, and people can check it all out. It's great.
I'm not hard to find. Google is your friend.
Yeah, yeah. They just make it easier for people. They can just click it in the show notes. It's right there. So awesome. Thank you so much, Billy. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you very much.
I'll be in touch. Bye bye.
Bye bye.